and I couldn't think of a better community to lead forward. It has it all. It's one of the most diverse cities in the state. It's home to 2 train stations that has the Orange Line, the commuter rail, and it's the last transportation hub north of Boston.
That's Mayor Christensen.
Gary Christensen, C-H-R-I-S.
He's just finishing his 4th year as the mayor of Malden, but it's a city he's come to know well. This is where he grew up, and he feels lucky that he can continue to watch it grow.
It's just really neat to witness the transformation from the historical aspect of Malden to where it is now in the year 2015.
Malden, it turns out, is also an important site to American history.
The actual town instructions that were sent from then the town of Malden to the Second Continental Congress on May 27th, 1776. And it was the first town to respond to the plea to support the Declaration of Independence.
Since then, Malden has exploded in popularity. Today, huge developments dot the outskirts of town, with a continuing influx of new immigrants. Malden's currently home to 60,000 people, over 30 parks, and 3 full school systems. Despite its size, Malden still feels like a small town. With old brick buildings and the passing commuter rail touching the sunset, it feels like a throwback to the 1950s. Mayor Christensen says it's a rich past which helps define Malden's future.
Our official motto here in the city is that it has a strong past, proud future.
One group found a way to celebrate just that every year. The Linwood Seniors began a Person of the Year award to acknowledge someone special and who's made Malden what it is today. Jane Foskowik is one of the organizers of the award. She explains it's about saying thank you.
Just to recognize these people, period. Just the recognition alone that they've done so much for our city that we want to say, hey, thank you.
This year, that person was Ann Madigan.
From all accounts, people that dealt with her just thought she was one of the best representatives a community could ever have. Even when she decided to retire, she's remained involved with our city. And as a result, we just couldn't be more pleased to have the opportunity to recognize her this year for her efforts.
Ann is 83 years old and has lived in Malden her whole life, in the same house she grew up in, no less. She's an institution in Malden, having been on the committee that built City Hall, served as the first female on Malden's council, and acted as superintendent of cemeteries for 35 years. Part of Ann's brilliance is her knack for storytelling. With such a rich life to use as a source, her stories could fill several volumes of books, with details down to the color of one's eye. In the mayor's private conference room on the top floor of City Hall on Pleasant Street, Ann began telling her story.
My name is Ann Madigan. I have this feeling inside of me. I am as happy as I can be as a person on this earth, because I've been put so many times in places where I could help someone. My home is my heart. My parents built our property, and out of respect, even today, I didn't take my father's name off of my telephone. It says Thomas Madigan. I would never take my dad's name off. My mother and father were dearly and preciously chosen to be together. And my daddy, being a returned veteran from World War I, would, if you mentioned the flag, or you'd go by a flag, or you'd go by a Catholic church, my daddy would tip his hat and he would bless himself when he went by a church. He just was so, those examples were shown to me when I was little, to love the flag, love the country, and your neighbors. I was one of 3 girls. I had a sister on either side. They were both lovely girls, smart, wonderful. And They were quiet. I think my mother and father decided that I was a firecracker. My two sisters were probably home frosting cupcakes or something, and they were just as dear as they could be, but I had that kind of energy, more like my dad, and I was proud to be able to. I never fussed about dust or dirt. I could wear gloves, I could wear boots, because that's what you need. You have to have the right equipment. Well, I think loyalty is terribly important to me. Honesty is the utmost. And genuine effort. You have to give your best all the time in anything you attempt to do, or you shouldn't be doing it. I love to participate in anything to do with the community, but in particular, anything for the veterans. I was working in Boston at the time with the Boston Visiting Nurse, and I had 13 districts under me. I created it. I was put into that nice, hard-working job, 24 hours a day. Everybody knew me, and everybody knew I was kind. It's the worst time of a life to have a death in the family. So to break my contract, I had to pay quite a bit of money in order, when they did determine they wanted me for the job in Malden. So I did that, and I stepped back to him, and he said, Malden is crazy. He said, you know what I read in the paper last night? And I said, no. He said, they have named a lady to be in charge of the whole cemetery department. He said, those men will never mind her. I couldn't tell him who I was. I just couldn't tell him. He asked me my name, and I gave him Murphy. So I left and started Malden right away. But because it was my hometown, and because I could continue my efforts for Malden, for Linden, for everybody, I was thrilled. No matter what the task was, it was never big enough. I knew I could do it. And if I didn't know the real way, I found out how it would best be handled. I remember an elderly lady lost her grandson who was living in Malden. The elderly lady had been moved by her family up to Maine, and it was snowing. And the boy had died in an accident and needed to be placed. And with permission, the grandmother said yes, he could be, but that document had to be signed. And they wanted the funeral the next day. So as soon as 5 o'clock came, I got in my car and drove to Maine and sat with the lady. I promised her I would be there. And she just poured her heart out to me because she wasn't expecting that young boy to die, but she did want him buried and would allow it. So without my trip up there, that would not have happened. Oh, I couldn't be happier anywhere. I have had loads of opportunities to do a lot of things in my life, but I'm so happy on where I am.